Okay. So anyway, oh, good. Thanks, Will. Thanks for putting that up. So welcome everybody. We're glad you're here. Everybody here, almost everybody's a member of I Take the Lead, so you kind of know what's going on. Katie, you're not. Where are you from, Katie?
I am based in Phoenix.
Oh, good, good. Oh, very good. Yeah. Well, welcome, because we get this out on our meetups. Well, we are a leads group organization based out of Portland, but Will is one of our speakers, and he's coming to you from. I assume you're in Missouri, back in Missouri now, Will?
I am. I'm in St.
Yeah.
Louis.
Yeah, most of us are in the Portland area. We have Brandy from Arizona and Alan from Colorado. So anyway, I want to thank everybody for being here. I am excited to hear Will today. He's going to be talking about. Oh, will you tell me the title again? I'm sorry.
Immediate results workshop.
Yeah, immediate results. That's right. I should have remembered that. I've had other things. For those who don't know, I was at the ER this morning and got home just in time to put this webinar on. So I'm excited to be here.
For yourself or family member?
Me, myself.
What'd you
And
do?
I'm fine. It was just just making sure I was okay. So,
Okay.
but anyway, a little, just kind of I saw Joyce earlier this morning, and then it was not long after that, after the meeting was over. But anyway, I'm excited to hear Will today. He's awesome. And it is going to be, he is going to engage you. It's so you don't have to, it's not one of those webinars where Will's just going to talk. He's going to let us all talk as well. So I'm going to just turn it over to Will and he can introduce himself. I'm sorry, Will. I'll let you do it.
Becky, I appreciate that. Yeah, guys, we're going to dive in and part of what I want to do here is, you guys, this is all about growth, and this is all about being intentional on how we can get better. And I do one-on-one sales performance and leadership coaching. I'll have a chance to get into a little bit of that, but the whole purpose today, guys, is about you. And one of the big things that we believe in at Southwestern Consulting, the company I work for, is just laughter and helping others to laugh. So I'm going to encourage you guys to laugh with me, have fun with me today. That's going to be a fun part about it. And I will ask, I'm just curious, how many of you guys think it's important to have fun with what you do on a day-to-day basis?
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely. So it's been fun just being a part of I Take the Lead. I've known Becky for quite a while now. I was out in the Pacific Northwest. I was in Portland, Vancouver area, and I just recently moved. My fiance is back here in Missouri in St. Louis, and she won the battle of where are we going to live because she has family here. So I've been in St. Louis since last July. But Becky, honored to just be a part of this. And I love every opportunity that I can get to give back. And we've spent some time previously just building out exactly what we wanted this thing to look like for you guys. And one of the other things that we believe in and are known for providing, guys, is just techniques that actually work. And that's everything to help move your business forward from if that's prospecting, if that's getting people off the buying line in the close, if that's how to improve your schedule and how to delegate, how to be more intentional with what you do on a day-to-day basis, all the way to clarity around, your vision and why you do what you do. And so, crew, we're going to dive in and we're going to kind of talk about two different parts of your business. We're going to spend a little bit of time on the technical piece, and we're also going to be spending a good chunk of time on the mental piece. And so I guess to start off, anybody ever heard of Southwestern Consulting before?
I have not.
Okay.
I'm cheating. I have, but I do.
All good. We've only been around since 1855, so we should probably work on our branding a little bit. But no, so just I think it is good for you guys to understand where we came from and why we're able to be experts in the field that we're in. And it is just kind of a cool story. So Southwestern actually started all the way back, in the 1800s in Nashville, Tennessee. And it was actually men, after the fact that were getting out of the war that needed a job, and they went and sold Bibles door to door. And in fact, if you look at a majority of the Confederate Army, a majority of them actually had a Southwestern Bible. And I kind of joke about it. I just did a workshop for Northwestern Mutual when I was in Florida. And I was like, we have the laziest founders, like Northwestern up in Milwaukee and Southwestern, like at the time, the southwesternmost portion part of the country in Nashville. So either way, we don't do door-to-door Bible sales anymore. We do have an internship program where we actually have college students go out and sell educational products to families. I did that for almost 9 summers. I think
Wow.
I knocked on close to 40,000 doors. I'm a little brain damaged from
those
all that.
cold calls were in person.
Yeah,
doors.
those are all in person at
Wow.
people's doors.
Becky and I
Um,
discussed that. That was one of our questions today. That's a lot of
Yeah.
work.
Yes. So I've experienced a good number of things. I could have a whole workshop on just hilarious stories. And I had an old man open the door completely naked and stared at me during my whole presentation when I was talking because I didn't know what to do.
Oh,
And he kind of looked at me for a second and he's like, "You're not my wife," and then slams the door.
oh my God.
Took you that long to realize it. Sweet. Well, that's great.
And the follow-up on that is on a book called Overcoming Objections.
Yeah. That's true. I don't know what I would have said to be able to overcome that, but either way, worked in some really fun parts of the country, from being out and working with lobstermen out in Maine to working in the bayou in Louisiana. So, some fun stories there, but guys, at the end of the day, Southwestern Consulting, we do one-on-one sales performance and leadership coaching. And realistically, obviously, we've worked with a lot of people around the world. Guys, realistically, this is what we do: is we elevate sales. And our mission and our purpose, of course, like our goal is to help people increase their income, make more money, be happier, be more efficient, all that fun stuff. And our mission and our purpose, realistically, is to help elevate the practice and perception of sales all across the country. And I think a big reason that the folks that we work with, the reason they hit their goals is the habits we're able to help them create. And I think it's also important to recognize, like, not everybody on here is only focused on making more money or increasing their income. I think it's also important to recognize too that some people's goals are elevating their leadership and their influence, or elevating relationships. One of my favorite sayings, how we do anything is how we do everything. And so, and that's not always true, but there's a good chunk of the time that if we're disorganized in our business, there's also a pretty good chance that we're unintentional and disorganized in our life. And if we struggle in building relationships in one part of our life, it's also going to reflect in other areas. And if we're not setting goals in certain parts of our life, well, guess what? It's also going to be the same for other areas of our business as well. And so I think it's important to recognize this, that our goal is to help increase everything. And so it's honestly a loss for me if people decide to if they just make a whole lot more money, but they're struggling in their relationships or dealing with challenges and with their spouse. Our goal is to, of course, help all of this. So that being said, I know I didn't prompt you guys on this, but I would love to know what goals we're working with. What are some things that we're wanting to accomplish? And again, I'd love to have you guys speak out. I want to make this engaging. I know one of you is in mortgage. I got your text, so that's fantastic. We do a lot of work in the mortgage industry as well, but Man, and I'd love to hear goals, whether it's 12-week goals, whether it's over the quarter. Well, that is a quarter, over the course of the year. If it's a 3-year goal, if it's business, if it's personal, what are some things that we want to accomplish?
So my big goal for the year is to get my website updated and actually have SEO out there working for me to get my phone ringing.
Love it.
I've been buying leads and calling on them and just getting burnt out on all the FUs and I didn't ask for this and that sort of stuff. So I'm just trying to get my phone ringing instead of having to call out to people.
Love it. Paul, what do you do?
I am an independent insurance agent.
Awesome. Okay. Perfect. So kind of building out your website so there's a little bit more traction coming into inbound leads.
Correct.
Love it. Cool. What else? What are some other goals? What are some other things you guys want to accomplish?
I'll bite. Actually, sort of similar to what Paul said. I'm a financial advisor. I feel like my whole system for prospecting is kind of ad hoc, and I kind of want to develop more of a system, like a sales funnel system, and that there's several moving parts with that. And I just kind of want to, kind of more have something more sustainable as opposed to something that's kind of and more organized, like and the self-organization thing is a thing I as part of that, and you mentioned something about that as well.
Yep. Tom, are you independent or you work with a firm?
I'm independent.
Love it. That's awesome. Let's do one more. I could call on somebody. Brandy, what about you? Unless somebody wants to speak up and say, I saw Alan, I did see you on mute. So we'll hit Alan up after, but Brandy, I'd love to hear your goals.
I texted you because I thought that that's what we were doing. So I've had a career change after 22 years. So I'm gaining knowledge of something that's completely out of my realm, gaining relationships, which I already love. I know how to network and have relationships. I'm just enjoying all the new knowledge. And then I'm gearing up for sales of our company's new product. So we are a consulting company for small startup tech companies, and we're brand new as well. So lots of change, and I came from the dental world. So this is really exciting, but a complete change of pace, and it's been a very transformative situation for me.
I love it. That's awesome. Alan, let's finish strong.
Yes, sir. So my wife and I started a direct primary care practice a little over a year ago. We're actually just getting it rolling. So my big goal is it's a membership-based primary care practice. My big goal is 650 members total, a patient panel of 650 members we'll say by the end of 2024.
Okay. 650 members. You got a little bit of time.
Yeah.
Kind of. 2024. Yeah, it depends on perspective.
Right.
Man, I appreciate that. And guys, thank you for sharing. I threw my cell phone in there too, if you do want to text me, because I think there is power in being able to share our goals, being able to speak that out there. And I think it's also important as we're talking about this, guys, in the framework, thinking about accomplishing that goal, what can you control in accomplishing that? Because right now there's so much that's outside of our control. And most things are going to be typically outside of our control. And so I want you to think of that goal and think about what are the controllables that go into accomplishing that goal. And Alan, I'm going to pick on you, man, just because you were the last person that spoke. Like, can you control getting those 650 members?
Yes.
Can you really control it, or can you influence it?
Good question.
Yes.
I can influence it.
Right.
I can heavily influence it. Ultimately, it's their choice whether or not they join. So
100%. We can't dive into somebody's pocketbook without getting arrested and have them work with us. So 100%. So when it comes to these ideas of controllables, there's there's this fun thing. If you guys are taking notes here, we call this the triangle of success. And so I want to make sure I'm going to touch on each one of these. And if you guys are playing along with me, which I hope you are, with each one of these parts of the triangle, I want you to think of what's one area that I can improve on in each area. And so you'll see what I mean when it comes to this triangle. The first part of it is skills. And so, what are those sales skills that you need to use on a daily basis? And so within the sales realm, of course, I'll just make it easy. I mean, that's closing skills, that's answering objections, that's getting quality referrals, and getting a little bit better in each of these areas can make a pretty big difference. So that's the first piece. Second is motivation. And motivation is honestly like what's kind of going on in between your two ears. For us, motivation is your vision, your goals, your attitude, like that. I think that's really key. And if you think about it, I mean, motivation is just one of those things in life that you either have it or you don't, right? Is it though? Because I'm sure you guys have you ever been motivated one day and not motivated the next?
Yes.
Right. And so it shouldn't just be, Paul, it shouldn't just be that rah, get excited, like let's watch a motivational video on YouTube. I think that's great, but that's not lasting. And our endurance, I think this is really key. If you guys want to jot this down, if there's one takeaway here, this is one of the most important things I want to hit on. But guys, our endurance is directly tied to the clarity of our vision. I can say our endurance in business is directly tied to the clarity of our vision. Our endurance in life is directly tied to the clarity of our vision. For example, George, if I showed up at your door and I was like, hey, George, we're going on a run. And you're like, how far are we running? I'm like, doesn't matter. Let's go. And you're like, okay, sure. And so we start running like a mile or two in, you're going to be like, well, this is dumb. Like, there's no point to like, where are we going? And, it's easy to be able to turn around and turn back. Compare that. Let's say we have a conversation and you're like, man, well, I really want to train for this half marathon or this 5K. I'm like, okay, cool. In order to do that, the first thing we need to do is let's run a half mile. Let's run a mile. Let's run 2 miles. And then when I show up at your door, you're like, cool, there's a plan. We know what we're going to do. And then you execute on it. So again, that is having the right vision. That's having the right goals. That's creating clarity around why you do what you do. So that's really important. The third piece, guys, is systems. And I'd say systems, that's a big reason why a lot of folks end up working with us, because if you don't have a plan, guys, everything falls apart. And again, having a good system is knowing, again, what is my pipeline going to look like? Systems for us is also time management. That's work-life balance. It's how you structure, how you do what you do. And so as you're looking at those three things, to keep this incredibly simple, and you don't need to necessarily get your answers right now, but each one of those, I want you to pick one area of how you can improve. Maybe it's for skills. Maybe that area is, I want to improve on my phone language. I feel like I'm not getting the percentage of people that I should. I want to improve with my skill around that. Maybe it's, I want to improve in asking for referrals. Maybe that's, I want to ask for referrals in general. Motivation. Is it getting clarity around where you're going to be in 3 to 5 years? Is it having goals and systems? Like, what is one system? Tom, I know you were mentioning like getting clarity around how you're prospecting. That's fantastic. Maybe that's one goal around your system and how you're wanting to improve. And that's okay if you guys don't necessarily have the answer to that yet. So that's a habits triangle. And guys, right smack dab in the middle, it's the word habits. And I'm going to be real with you guys for part of this too, because I think it is important to, kind of get hit in the gut a little bit. But unless we develop the right habits, none of what I'm talking about matters. Because unless you develop the habit of implementation, I mean, guys, what's going to happen 2 weeks from today? because I'm sure, myself included, I'm no different. I'm just because I'm a coach doesn't mean that I have everything right. Like I have a coach, my coach has a coach, they probably have a coach. Because again, like, haven't you been to tons of trainings? And I'm sure you've even seen some great things from I Take the Lead, where you're like, man, that's really good. Ooh, I like that. That's a really good point. And you write it down. But unless you actually put it into practice and create the habit of implementation, we don't change. And so guys, this is the habits triangle. This is our model for success. And the way we do this, whether it's working with us or not, I don't care. Whatever it is, you need some form of accountability. And if we're all honest with ourselves, if we did have a little bit more accountability, would we be a little closer to our goals? That's what we do. It's kind of like having a personal trainer for our business. I have a love-hate relationship with accountability. So I went to the University of Missouri. I studied nutrition and fitness in school. Do you think I could probably put together a pretty decent workout plan?
Hopefully.
You guys, all of you could. It's called the Google machine. You look it up. You can find workouts like they exist, right? But that doesn't always mean that I'm going to be in the gym at 5:30. I need to have somebody to be there that is going to be there to kick my butt.
Hey, Will.
Just because, yes, sir.
Habits are going to happen. It's your choice whether they're going to be good habits or bad habits.
You're 100% right. We all have those habits, no matter what. It's just, are we leaning into the good ones? Or are we getting rid of the bad ones? Right.
Yep.
And I think that's so true. So guys, we're going to dive in and we're going to talk about some habits of some of the top producers in any and all industries. And I think it's important, like that being said, I'm sure you guys would all agree with me that you can't change your habits around your business in an hour. Just like you can't lose weight or put on muscle or go to your personal trainer once. Like, obviously that's why we have a coaching program. Obviously that's why there's accountability in other areas of your life. Right. And so my disclaimer is this stuff isn't rocket science. It's nothing that you haven't heard before, nothing that has never been mentioned before, but I really want you to challenge yourself. Even though you know to do these things, are you doing them consistently? And if not, why not? And, so my challenge to you guys is if something rings true to you, fantastic. Happy to have a conversation after this. If it doesn't, I truly hope you're able to take one or two just fun little nuggets of information that you guys can implement and start building into your business. The one thing that I would ask, guys, is that you just come into this with an open mind to learn and grow. Is that fair? Perfect.
Yep.
So there's going to be 3 habits that I'm going to touch on. These are habits that have been followed by top producers, any and all industries, all across the country, all across the world. The first habit, and I think this is a good one, an important one to jot down, guys, is top producers find a way, not an excuse. Top producers focus on finding a way to overcome whatever obstacles they have so they could, they can take advantage of those opportunities. And it's also important, like, guys, we're all really good at coming up with excuses, aren't we?
Oh, yeah.
Right? They normally sound the same, like, like I hear some fun ones. It was interesting. I was having a conversation with an individual that works in the banking industry. And she's like, well, honestly, it's just it's not a good time right now. Interest rates are a little crazy. And so we're going to be pretty busy at work. And so there's not a lot of time for us to be able to work on ourselves. We're just trying to stay afloat. And oh yeah. And also not to mention there's that whole war that's going on in Ukraine. And I don't know what that's going to do to our economy. That's painful to hear, because there's always going to be things that are going to be outside of our control. And realistically, we all have that little person that sits on our shoulder and whispers those rationalizations in our ear all day long. And we like to call that little person Mr. Mediocrity, or Mr. M for short. And if you look at that word rationalizations, I like to look at it as rationalizations. I mean, they're lies, aren't they?
Yeah.
Is there anything that little person can help make, help make you happier, more successful, make you more money? Like, no. And then the sad thing is we sometimes get really good at listening to that little voice and think that's true. Now, on the opposite end, do you guys think top producers, do you think they hear that voice as well?
Everybody hears that voice.
Yeah.
100%. Every single one of us hear that voice.
Yep.
It's just our decision. Are we going to listen to that voice, or are we going to knock that person off her shoulder, sometimes up to 200 times a day? And again, if it's going to be, it's up to me. And if there's a will, there is a way. Top producers are always focusing on finding that way. And so what I want you guys to think about, again, excuses are reality. They happen, right? So if you've had an excuse in the last couple of days, great. You're a human being. You welcome to society, right? So I'd love to hear from you guys. Like, what are some of those things that you have told yourself either this week or the last month? Like, and obviously I'd love if you guys were able to speak up too, but I'd love, you can be a little bit more real and vulnerable if you want to text me, whether it's, and I feel like I just don't have enough time. That's one that I've been battling. Or I just feel like I'm not to the place where I can really, dedicate time to be able to reach out to other people. I just need to really stay in my book of business right now. Or I'm just really struggling with some mental stuff. And because of that, it's hard for me to feel like I can serve other people. What is that for you guys?
I haven't had enough coffee.
Man.
The time thing is a big one. It goes across work and personal life. Like people constantly say, I don't have time to take a run. I don't have time to take a walk. I don't have time to go work out. And then you hit a certain age and all of a sudden your friends are dropping dead of heart attacks. And you think, boy, I'm glad I've been taking the time to take that walk or run. So you can find a time. Everybody has a time. It's whether or not you're going to use it.
How we dedicate ourselves to that time. You're absolutely right. The coffee thing is true too. Absolutely. Kelly, what were you going to say?
Well, kind of along the same lines, that prioritizing, right? And I can find myself at times feeling overwhelmed in, what I need to get done first, and because there's so much to do in having your own business, and if you're, and focusing on sales and making sure that you're following up on, every opportunity possible. It can seem like if I'm not prioritizing things right, where do I need to have that order?
Yep. Agreed. Yeah, that's strong. And I think it's important. I'm going to transition here, and I want you guys to think, if you did write that excuse down, there is power in writing it down. I will say that, because it's bringing it to life. Yeah, and we're going to come back to that excuse. Don't you worry. That's still hanging out. We're going to address it. The second one is they're students of their game. Top producers are students of their game. So I'm just curious, Patricia, for you, what does being a student of the game mean for you? When you hear that, what are your thoughts?
Having all the knowledge, continually educating myself on my most current products that I have, educate, and also keep on educating myself through reading and listening for my mindset, so that I'm really taking care of my mind, and knowing that way I can be laser focused and leaving out my emotions while I'm doing it, but not leaving out the joy.
Ooh, I like that. Not leaving out the joy. I think that's powerful. Yeah. I mean, again, if we're not growing, we're dying. You guys have heard all kinds of sayings around that. One of my favorite sayings in that boat is a Jim Rohn quote. I'm a huge Jim Rohn fan. He said, "A formal education will make you a living. A self-education will make you a fortune." I think that's so powerful. And guys, I also want to reiterate, if you look at the excuse that you wrote down, realistically, guys, how many books are out there that are literally written by experts in that field to work on improving whatever that is that you just wrote down? Alan, I'm sure there's books out there to how to make your coffee stronger so it kicks you in the butt a little bit more, like, and in all seriousness, I put this up jokingly, but in all seriousness, guys, there are things out there, but sometimes we just get caught in our life to where we get stuck in what we're used to. And so if there's all these books out there, why aren't we doing that? Why aren't we changing? So that's the second piece, always constantly learning. I think that's key. The third is taking action now. Top producers take action now. And I want you to challenge yourself in rating yourself in this one specific category on a scale of 1 to 10. And you can text me if you want. 10 is somebody that is incredibly proactive. They're not reactive. They know exactly what they need to do. They have their goals. They've broken it down into bite-sized chunks and they execute on it. Somebody that's maybe a 0 or 1, you might, kind of have some goals and know, in general what you want to focus on. But, for whatever reason, we're wondering Monday morning why all of a sudden we're putting out fires and we're chasing things and, figuring out why we're not hitting our goals consistently. So I'll give you a second. If you guys want to say things, you can. Definitely don't have to, but I do want you to at least write it down. What's that number for you? And I'm going to say some things. I want this to be a self-check. Okay. If you're not a 10 most days, what is that costing you? And I honestly said what and not how much, because again, for some people, you get into running your own business or being in sales or being in leadership or doing something in that category, and you can make a good living. You can pay for the things that are important to you. And, for others though, it is, it's paying for that fun vacation, or it's going to take that honeymoon that you've always wanted to go to, or pay for your kids' college tuition, or pay for your own mortgage and be able to cover that. And for others of us too, guys, it's guilt. It's a guilty feeling that we sometimes have inside when, it's 6 or 7 o'clock at night and we're still sitting there on our laptop and our spouse is like, get off that thing. Can't that wait? Can't you do that later? And obviously, we feel bad when we're doing that. And we just weren't as intentional or proactive as we wanted to throughout the day to be able to handle that. And so again, if we're not at 10 most days, what is that costing us? And does it give us that feeling inside that says, I don't always have to operate like this. I do want to change. I do want to move in the right direction. So full transparency, I'd probably give myself 7 to an 8 right now. Definitely working on some areas, but it's recognizing that. I think that's really important. And I love this question. Just curious, guys, when we're in the realm of taking action, what do you feel like the most expensive and visible cost in business is today? Just curious. What are your thoughts? Inaction. Yeah. I'll give you a hint. It rhymes with procrastination. Okay. We like to call it creative avoidance. I don't know if you can relate to that, but I was in Boca Raton this past week. I was running a workshop for a big financial institution down there. You guys have heard of them, Northwestern Mutual. I was working with the chief development officer and we were doing a training for some of their leaders and some of their other people. And we were talking about this idea of creative avoidance. And I don't know if you guys can relate to this, but let's say for one of these guys, their call time, it's like, cool, 3 o'clock, I'm going to pick up the phone. I'm going to start prospecting. Let's make it happen. And you sit down at your desk and you're like, okay, game time. Woo. Okay. Man, what I should probably get, and I probably sound a little bit better if I'm caffeinated. Let me go get a coffee real quick. You go get a coffee and then you come back to your desk, and maybe on the way to your desk, you see your buddy that you were playing in fantasy football and you're like, oh man, I'm going to rub it into his face because I beat him this past week. And like, okay, I got to go, get to your desk, and you're like, ooh, I should probably go to the bathroom first. I don't want to call on a full bladder. Let me do that. You go handle that, and then you get back and you sit down at your desk, and first thing you hear is a ding. What is it? Well, text message, it's your email, whatever it is. And you're like, ooh, yeah, that's probably more important. Let me tackle that. That's a client. They want something. Let me handle that first. And all of a sudden that 3 o'clock prospecting time has turned into 3:30, 3:45 prospecting time. And we've kind of creatively pushed that on because that's creative avoidance. Can you relate to that?
Oh, yeah.
My fiance is really good at doing that when it comes to going to the gym. She'll think of all kinds of things like, oh yeah, let me handle this. Oh, I'm going to eat a sandwich first before I go. She eventually does. She does go. I'll give her credit. Lynn, were you going to say something?
I was going to say, yeah, by the time you're starting, you could have been done.
100%. You're exactly right. So I do want you guys to think about it like this. There's this fun concept called the law of diminishing intent. And the law of diminishing intent very simply states that our intention to do something over time without action is going to diminish. Man, a great example of this. I don't know if you like, what's a great New Year's resolution that you hear from everybody?
Lose weight.
Exercise.
Yeah.
I'm going to exercise. I'm going to lose. I'm really going to make sure I'm going to sign up for that marathon this year. It's going to happen.
Yep.
Well, come March, it's like, well, I got some shin splints, or, yeah, we got, I'm probably just going to wear a shirt for spring break, not the big of the end of the world. Like I'm going to work out, next month. Next month is my month. We have all kinds of things, whatever it is, right? Guys, this happens in our business as well. I mean, if you think about it, let's say you have a conversation with a potential client. And I know we have a whole bunch of different industries on here, so just keeping it simple here. Have a conversation with a potential client. They're like, man, this is really cool, Brandy. I'm into it. I just need to talk to a couple people. Let's get something on the books next couple of weeks. We'll make it happen. Well, for whatever reason, let's say we get pulled into one thing or the next, and we're not as intentional as we should be as far as following up with that person. And then, it ends up being 2 or 3 weeks later, and all of a sudden we're reaching out to that person because we didn't get something in the calendar and they're ghosting us. We don't hear back from them. Guys, that is the law of diminishing intent. That happens. So has that happened to you before? Right? And so
Happened to everybody.
Everybody, every single person. And so I will challenge you, if it frustrates you when it happens to you, why do we allow it to happen to ourselves? Okay. So what I want to make sure to touch on, guys, I'm going to black this out for a second. I'm sure that's funny. It's just a giant black screen and then a small little box in my face. So one of the big things that I think you can work on, but one of the big things that we work on in coaching is being incredibly intentional about what are your income producing activities, and also figuring out what are your goals. So again, if it's 650, Alan, I love it. What are those income producing activities that we need to do to get there? Are we breaking them down to, is it number of appointments set? Is it reverse engineering that? And then actually building it, guys, into a calendar and actually following that calendar. And I will say this first before I get this objection, because I do work with a lot of folks in the mortgage and the real estate industry, and man, all the time they're like, well, it's just hard for me to put together a schedule because I don't know when I'm going to get a call from a client or tackle this or handle this, or IT is just down my throat right now, so I can't really have a schedule. Sure. But there's 2 things that are always going to be consistent when it comes to our schedule. Guys, the first one is if we don't know what a perfect week looks like, we're never going to have one. And the second is if we're not actively putting in income producing activities into our calendar, we're not actively growing our business. Okay. So I'm going to show this put it on the screen here. You guys can take a screenshot of it. You can do whatever you want. I don't think it's going to be that helpful to you because this isn't your schedule. This is a gentleman by the name of Chad Goldwasser. He was a #1 Keller Williams real estate agent in the entire country, sold like 543 homes back in 2014. He was a machine. This was his ideal schedule. Now, when I say that, does that necessarily mean it's exactly how he's going to follow it every single week? No, things are going to change. Things are going to get moved around. But this was his intention, and he recognized this is how he was going to try to build out his business. Obviously, it worked. Now, I will say, guys, I didn't coach this person, so I don't know why he only had dinner twice a week. I don't know if that was like an intermittent fasting thing or whatever that was, but this is what worked for him. And whenever I'm in a room with real estate agents and they see this, they're like, "Oh, that's just not, I got to pick up the kids at 3." I'm like, cool, do that. Build out your ideal schedule. And then your goal is to work on building it out and actually following through with it. And so there's a couple other folks that I've worked with in the past. Taylor Thigpen, he's a district sales coordinator for Aflac. I think he was #3 in the country in new accounts opened this past year. This was one of his schedules that he built out for one of the weeks that he was going into. And then just for funsies, I threw one of my schedules in. It was a little hectic on the coaching calls. But again, the point is be a practitioner of what we preach and follow a schedule, build it out, have intention and clarity around what you're doing. So guys, that's the third piece here. And so what I want you to do, I know I'm getting a little closer to time. I do want to there's one technical thing that I wanted to make sure to touch on, but when you look at those 3 things, which one resonated with you the most? Is it finding a way, not an excuse? Is it being a student of the game? Is it taking action now? You can definitely text me if you want. But again, you also picking what that is also good because it's clarity around how you're going to improve. And Alan, I saw you unmuted. Do you want to say something for you? What
Yeah,
was it?
that schedule thing is super powerful. I can personally vouch for that. And it's a good reminder because I used to do that a lot. And it's kind of a reminder that I kind of fell out of habit doing that. And so thank you for that. I took screenshots of those. I hope you don't mind. I took a lot of screenshots of those because that's some super powerful stuff right there.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And the schedules are also very important when you're married because you have to have the rest of your life in that schedule because there are certain times you've got to dedicate for that too. So schedule is really, really important.
I don't know if I've trained my fiance or she's trained me, but I got like 3 invites today of like things that we're doing or places that she's going. So I know what's happening. It's just good to be in the loop, right? So again, that schedule piece is really key.
Yep.
So what I want to do, guys, I could kind of do an overall perspective on like the sales cycle. If it's cool with you, I just kind of wanted to dig into one single piece of it because I think that's, of course, where the rubber hits the road and it's referrals. You guys okay if I jump to that piece? Spend a little bit of time on that? Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I think, when it does come to the idea of referrals, it's also important to recognize, why do people not get referrals? Anybody want to take a wild crack at why most people don't get referrals?
They either don't give referrals or they don't ask for referrals.
Lynn, it's like you've done this before.
Maybe a little bit. I've been around too long, Will.
Yes, they don't ask, or they ask passively. Right?
Yeah.
Can you go into detail on that second one? Because I ask everyone for referrals, everyone of my clients, every time I get off the phone, and maybe I'm not wording it right.
Yeah, definitely. And I will give you a little bit more clarity on like some good language. I think it's important when you say, if you can think of anybody, feel free to pass on my information. You're still going to get good referrals every once in a while, because again, some people are going to have top of mind folks ready to go and ready to pass on. But I guess, and by the way, who was speaking? My screen is a little smaller.
Oh, Paul, too far.
Paul, cool. So Paul, if I'm asking, if you can think of anybody, feel free to pass that information on. Am I asking you a question or am I just making a statement?
I guess you're making a statement.
So when people make a statement, it doesn't cause us to think. If you ask a question, it gets you to actually think a little deeper and dig in a little bit more.
So do you have anyone, can you think of anyone that could use my kind of help?
Yeah.
That'd be up there.
Better. Yep. I think another, and I will get to the proper one simple, and I will also say, guys, there's like a gazillion sales trainings out there. There's so much stuff out there. Like you can find some good language. Like we have certain language, and I don't have one specific language that I say, hey, so-and-so, here's what you need to ask. There's structure around it. And part of it is just getting comfortable around, here's a language that I'm going to use and actually just using it, because part of it, it has very little to do with your words. It has a lot more to do with just the confidence in you owning your script, and it should be yours. The other way, of course, is do you know anyone who, right? Because Becky, what's a really easy answer to that?
No.
Yes. No, but I'll definitely think about it.
Yeah.
Right. And people and everybody has good intentions, but when you ask a question like that and people get uncomfortable because they feel like they need to answer, then of course they're going to say no, but I'll definitely even if you do a great job. I think that's really key. So Paul, to get you a little bit of clarity around this, there's a very simple 3-step referral technique. And again, there's many other techniques that we teach, even just in referrals. I'm going to give you a very simple one. So the first one is this simple steps, the service question. So the service question is literally just to check in, like, do you like what we do? Do you like what I've been able to offer you? So of course, a good question there is like, man, Brandy, I just thank you for digging in today. It's really awesome. Just curious, like, how are we doing so far? How's our process so far? Again, if you're doing, you don't have to play along. We're not going to role play here, Brandy, but in general, what are most people going to say here? Yeah, it's been great. Oh, thank you. Like that's our goal, right? If they're not saying that, we should probably work on something else outside of referrals.
Yeah.
And I challenge you guys to take it a little deeper, second level, because again, how are we doing so far? A really easy answer is like, yeah, it's good. Okay, second level. Awesome. Tom, what's been good about it? What are 1 or 2 things that you really appreciated about the process? Or what are 1 or 2 things that you really liked about our home buying process, or just our process in general when it came to digging into, financial stability, whatever it is. Second level, ask them what specifically, okay? Second is remind. Becky, I really appreciate it. Just one thing to also keep in mind, if you have any questions, just over the next couple weeks, couple months, please feel free to reach out to me. Do you have my personal cell? Great. If not, here it is, right? Again, reminding them that you're there to serve. Third is else. What I mean by else is really simple. So Paul, for you, who are 1 or 2 other people that you really think would find value, even just in having a conversation? No idea if it would be a good fit or not, but who do you know, right? Because again, that's more specific. That's getting them to think of the type of person. And if you're getting roadblocks still, obviously there's other things to be able to dig into and spend some time on. But just who are 1 or 2 other people, or who else do you know that would also find value in what we do? So there's more to that. Of course, Tom, you can get specific if you're dealing with people in like the nursing industry or doctors, like, and who are two or three other, X, Y, and Z doctors that you also spend a lot of time with, or who are other people in the same industry of yours, or who are 2 or 3 people that you also work with. Like, you can get really fun and specific there where it's easy for people to be able to refer you. Questions on any of that?
I throw in one more thing. If you're talking to people and you're
Let's
trying
do
to
it.
find referrals to give your teams, another question to ask. I've provided a service and I've saved somebody money and I've helped them out. Is there anything else you're looking for that might be able to save you some money? Have you looked at your insurance? Have you looked at, and prompt them specifically, with partners you know can help them? Do you have a financial person for your 401k? And that enables you to give referrals, prompting your client to think outside of you for businesses that can help them. And that's going to help, they're going to think of you down the line if you can help them with some other areas.
Love it. Yeah, that's powerful.
Excellent.
Any other questions? I know I kind of blitzed through this. Okay. So what I want to do, guys, for time's sake, because I know we're at time as far as where we originally had mentioned. So to make this incredibly simple, guys, I did have a couple other things as far as like explaining and talking a little bit about our services and coaching and what that looks like. I'll make this really easy. If there's anything that you guys were able to take where you're like, probably be good to have a conversation and just learn, this is what coaching does for people. I'll make it really simple. If people get into coaching, they make more money. You got to be doing something really stupid to not increase your income. It's more intentionality around your time and helps grow your confidence. And I know for time's sake, I didn't get into exactly what coaching looks like and how that operates and how often you talk to people. I'll make it really simple. This is one-on-one coaching. This is getting paired with your coach. It's going to be the best fit for you. Obviously, I didn't create Southwestern Consulting. I'm not that old. We have about 140 coaches across the country. We're very intentional about finding people that get paired with you that's going to be a good fit. There's a lot more that we can kind of dive into and get into, but just to make it really simple for you guys, if you are curious and want to know even just a little bit more, what I will say, we're just going to make this crazy simple. Everybody's in one of three categories. A one is, Will, this makes sense. I'd like to have a conversation about coaching and see what that looks like. Two, Will, this is really good. I actually know some leaders that would appreciate having a workshop similar to what we just did and dug into. And then three, hey, not for me, but hey, let's plan on connecting on LinkedIn or just seeing if we can help each other out. So one is, hey, I'm interested to hear what coaching looks like. That doesn't mean, Will, I'm signing up. Let's do this thing. Let's just, hey, let's explore that. Let's see if it could make sense, and if it doesn't, great. I'll be the first to tell you that. Two is, hey, I might know some leaders that this would also bring value to, or the leader that I work with, or hey, I'm a leader. My people need to hear this. They need to get kicked in the butt a little bit. And then a three is, hey, let's make sure we're connecting on social media, on LinkedIn. I will again throw my my number in the chat box. And then I will also make sure if you guys have any questions, thank you, Kelly. Thank you for being a part of this. If you have any questions, feel free to shoot them over to me. And happy to have conversations moving forward, even if it is just asking about that schedule that I showed up on the screen. But Becky, I'll make sure to pass it on over to you.
Okay. So they should text the number to you, right?
Yep. All you got to do is text me a 1, 2, or 3, and then we'll make sure just to set up a conversation to chit chat sometime this week or next.
Perfect.
That's all.
Well, good. I just want to did anybody have any quick last minute questions before we end?
Good stuff. As always, Will.
Yeah, thank you, Will.
Another quick
Thank you, Lynn.
description is think of Will as a personal trainer for your business life.
100%. That's great.
Absolutely. And I've got to say, I know people who have worked with Will. They met him. They were ITIC League members. They met him and swear by him. And so, but Will's the first to say if he's not the right fit, he'll find someone who is the right fit too. So I was kind of surprised with that in the beginning because a lot of coaches, they really high pressure the people to work with them, and Will's not like that at all. So he provides information and will help you regardless of whether it's with him or not. So
Becky, I appreciate that. That means a lot.
So good.
Patricia, I love the fact that you're working with a coach too. Did she just jump off? She mentioned
Yeah,
she's working with
yeah.
a coach and she's getting a lot of great results. That's awesome.
Yeah, yeah.
Wonderful, guys. Well, if no other questions, I look forward to chit chatting with you a little bit more, shooting those text messages out, and happy to be of service in any capacity.
Thanks, everyone. It
Thank
was a
you.
pleasure.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Thanks,
Appreciate it,
everybody.
Thanks, Will.
guys.
Thanks,
Thanks,
You're
everybody.
welcome. See ya.
Bye-bye.
Becky, I'm glad you're better.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, we missed you at noon.
Yeah, I asked Brandy if she was there and she said, no, she was thinking because of this, that maybe we
Right.
didn't have the meeting. So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Don't
So
let your
thank you.
foot fall asleep before you stand up.
I won't. Yeah. Or I won't stand up if it is. Trust me, that won't happen again. So yeah. So I'll be doing replay, and so I'll be messaging you too, Will. Okay.
Sounds great. Looking forward
Okay.
to it.
Thanks,
guys.
everybody.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
See you tomorrow, Ellen.
All right, see ya. Thank you.
Yeah,
Okay. Bye, Paul. See you tomorrow too.
yeah.